You step backward in time, long before radar screens, fighter jets, or grainy cell phone footage, back to an era when the sky itself was treated as a living realm. Civilizations didn't just look upward for weather or stars. They looked upward for answers, for gods, for visitors. Across ancient Mesopotamia, you find tablets describing the Anunnaki, beings said to descend from the heavens, not metaphorically, but physically. They arrive in fiery objects, wield advanced knowledge, and instruct humanity in agriculture, astronomy, and law. The Sumerians don't describe these figures as abstract spirits. They give them height, lineage, hierarchy. You notice how strange that is. Myths usually blur details, these don't. Move west to ancient Egypt. You walk along the walls of temples where gods are depicted not floating but standing, solid, proportioned, wearing what looks suspiciously like helmets, breathing apparatuses, or elongated headgear. The god Thoth, keeper of knowledge, is said to have descended from the sky and gifted humanity writing, mathematics, and timekeeping. Egyptian texts never say he imagined these ideas. They say he brought them. You pause here because a pattern is forming. In ancient India, the Vedas describe flying machines called vimanas, capable of vertical takeoff, hovering, and traveling vast distances. Some texts even detail metallic composition and propulsion effects. Modern scholars argue symbolism, but symbolism usually doesn't bother describing fuel types or flight mechanics. You can't help noticing that. Across Mesoamerica, the Maya and Aztecs speak of feathered serpent gods, Quetzalcoatl, Kukulkan, beings who arrive from the sky, teach civilization, then promise to return. Their departure is as important as their arrival. It's not an ending, it's a pause. You wonder why so many cultures were convinced someone was coming back. China's ancient records speak of sky suns and luminous beings descending in dragon-like craft. Aboriginal Australian rock art depicts tall, non-human figures with oversized heads and glowing outlines, Wandjina spirits, who descend from the sky and control weather. These paintings aren't decorative. They're maintained, repainted, treated as historical record. Here's where the documentary tone tightens. None of these cultures had contact with each other. No shared language, no shared mythology pipeline. And yet, you keep seeing the same elements repeat. Sky beings, knowledge transfer, non-human teachers, promises of return. You remember that mainstream archaeology explains this as coincidence, metaphor, or psychological projection, humans personifying the unknown. That explanation sounds neat until you notice how consistent the unknown looks across continents. Then there are the structures. The Great Pyramid aligns with cardinal directions with accuracy modern engineers still admire. Machu Picchu sits atop a mountain ridge with seismic-resistant precision. Pumapunku's stone blocks are cut with tolerances so tight a razor blade barely fits between them. Ancient engineers using copper tools and ropes somehow achieved feats modern machinery struggles to replicate. Ancient texts don't credit human brilliance alone. They credit helpers. This is where the ancient astronaut theory enters. Not as proof, but as a question. What if early humans didn't invent civilization from scratch? What if they inherited pieces of it? You don't need aliens to explain human ingenuity, but you do need to explain why ancient cultures believed so firmly that they weren't alone. As centuries pass, these sky beings slowly change names. Gods become angels. Angels become watchers. Watchers become spirits. Spirits become fairies, jinn, or demons depending on geography. The beings don't disappear, they rebrand. You notice something unsettling. As human technology advances, the descriptions shift. Medieval encounters describe glowing shields and aerial wheels. The 1800s describe airships. Post-1940s descriptions suddenly resemble spacecraft. Is that cultural projection, or is something adapting its appearance to the observer? By the time you reach the modern era, the language changes completely. Gods are replaced by objects. Chariots become craft. Messengers become entities. And that's when the sky stops being sacred and starts being monitored. You think about this. If something had been interacting with humanity for thousands of years, would it announce itself loudly or slowly fade into folklore until humans were technologically ready to reinterpret it? This chapter doesn't ask you to believe. It asks you to notice. Because when ancient people looked to the heavens, they didn't ask if someone was there. They asked why they came, and more importantly, why they left. You're no longer standing in ancient ruins. You're driving dark highways, sitting in police stations, listening to cracked audio recordings that were never meant for the public. Whatever once wore the mask of gods now arrives without ceremony, and it doesn't ask permission. The modern era of alien encounters begins quietly in the late 1940s, just after humanity learns how to split the atom. You notice the timing immediately. Nuclear tests light up the sky, and suddenly the sky seems to look back. In 1961, you're riding shotgun with Betty and Barney Hill on a lonely road in New Hampshire. The night is clear, the drive uneventful, until a bright object appears above the tree line. It doesn't roar, it doesn't streak, it moves with intention. Barney watches it through binoculars and feels something cold settle in his stomach. The object doesn't behave like an aircraft, it anticipates them. Then comes the silence, then the missing time. Hours vanish without memory. Their car ends up miles down the road. Barney's shoes are scuffed, Betty's dress is torn, neither remembers why. Later come the nightmares, identical, recurring, vivid. Under hypnosis, their memories surface. Gray-skinned beings, large black eyes, a clinical environment, examinations conducted with detached curiosity. Betty recalls a star map, one that later sparks uncomfortable debate among astronomers. You note something important. This case doesn't explode immediately. It unfolds slowly, methodically, through therapy sessions, consistent testimony, and psychological distress that doesn't resemble hoax behavior. Whether the event was external, internal, or something stranger, it establishes a template, one that thousands of future cases will follow almost too perfectly. In 1973, you're standing on the muddy bank of the Pascagoula River in Mississippi. Charles Hickson and Calvin Parker are fishing when a glowing football-shaped craft appears silently above the water. They don't run. They can't. Their bodies freeze. Three entities emerge, gray, mechanical, with claw-like hands and slit mouths. There's no conversation, no warning, just procedure. They're levitated aboard the craft and examined by what Hickson later describes as a giant robotic eye. When they're returned, they stagger into a sheriff's office in visible shock. Officers secretly record them alone, expecting a confession. Instead, they capture raw terror, two men breaking down when they believe no one is listening. Investigators remain divided. Skeptics point to lack of physical evidence. Supporters point to polygraph results, psychological consistency, and the fact that neither man ever truly benefits from the story. You're left with an uncomfortable truth. Whatever happened, it damaged them. Then there's Travis Walton in 1975. A logger vanishes for 5 days after a beam of light strikes him in the woods. His co-workers fail polygraphs. Search parties assume murder. Walton reappears disoriented, dehydrated, claiming abduction aboard a craft. Medical examinations show weight loss and trauma inconsistent with hiding in the forest. You notice how the details shift slightly from case to case, but the structure remains eerily consistent. Bright light, paralysis, missing time, clinical examination, memory fragmentation, which brings you to the beings themselves. The most commonly reported entities are known as grays. You've seen them before, even if you don't remember where. Short stature, large heads, thin limbs, gray or pale skin, black, almond-shaped eyes, no visible ears, minimal facial features, 3 to 4 fingers. Witnesses describe them not as emotional, but focused, like technicians running a task. Here's the unsettling part. These descriptions solidify before they dominate popular media. Movies follow reports, not the other way around. Other forms appear too. Nordic-type beings, tall, human-looking, pale, often described as calm or authoritative. Sometimes they communicate telepathically. Sometimes they issue warnings. They don't examine, they instruct. That difference matters. Then there are reptilian humanoids, tall, scaled entities rooted deep in human mythology. From the crocodile-headed god Sobek in ancient Egypt to modern conspiracy narratives, reptilian beings persist across eras. Some theorists argue they represent fear archetypes. Others suggest something older, something that learned early how to stay hidden. You don't miss how many cultures independently describe non-human intelligences as underground, underwater, or interdimensional rather than extraterrestrial. This leads to alternative frameworks. The interdimensional hypothesis, suggesting these beings don't travel through space, but reality itself, slipping between layers we barely understand. At places like Skinwalker Ranch, phenomena refuse to stay categorized. UFO sightings overlap with cryptids, poltergeist activity, electromagnetic interference, and psychological effects. It's messy, that's the problem. Real phenomena usually are. Skeptics argue these encounters stem from sleep paralysis, trauma, fat, cultural expectation, or neurological misfires. And you consider that seriously because some cases clearly fit those explanations. But others don't. Multiple witnesses, radar confirmation, physical traces, psychological harm with no apparent benefit. Cases where people desperately wish the experience hadn't happened. So you're left standing in the middle between belief and dismissal, where documentaries are supposed to live. You don't conclude that aliens are here. You conclude something is interacting with humanity in ways that refuse simple explanation, something that changes masks across centuries, something that adapts its appearance, something that doesn't introduce itself, only observes. And as you step back from the evidence, one thought lingers longer than the rest. If these encounters are real, even partially, the question isn't why people believe in aliens. It's why the phenomenon keeps showing up, generation after generation, no matter how badly we want it to stop.